chair properly. Lovely to be here. I cannot think of a better place to launch the Melbourne Queer Film Festival this year than a theatre that has its own built-in disco lights. Isn't that amazing? God, I'd love that. My name is Triana Butler. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. I am with Joy 94.9. I'm a presenter. I'm here with Spiro Economopoulos. Oh, I nearly got through that.
You did.
This is why I got told to just say Spiro. I'm like, no, I can say the name properly.
You can just go Spiro. It's like Cher. Just one name's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Much more premium when you say it like that.
Yeah. And it's actually really nice to be able to share the stage with someone doing this because I'm usually doing this solo. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure. It must be... Speaking of being nice, it must be nice, it's been 3 long years since we've been able to run Melbourne Queer Film Festival at full capacity. How's it feel to be back?
Look, it feels really great. It's obviously, we all know it's been, incredibly challenging. I feel very lucky that as a film festival, we've found ways to continue programming and sort of keeping engaged with audiences, which has been really good. But, let's face it, it's all about being in spaces like this and, seeing queer cinema together.
And having that connection and having that moment communally in a room with other people experiencing the film at the same time.
Yeah, totally. I always kind of love watching, you see a film in the cinema, but then watching with a queer audience, it always kind of just hits differently.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you're across a whole lot of films that are part of the festival. What kind of trends are you seeing across film?
Well, I guess we'll start with the obvious one, actually. I feel like I'm very far away from you, but anyway, a bit closer.
Twisted sideways. There we go. That's better.
Sort of interestingly, I guess I'll start with the obvious ones. And, the last 2 years, something called COVID was happening, and it's been really interesting to see the way that's sort of been represented and has impacted cinema. I think now what I've been seeing are a lot of films that are reflecting something really different in terms of the reaction to that. So I'm not seeing as many movies that are set in a room with 2 people or, over Zoom. So, films are definitely opened up quite a bit, which is really great. And I think the way COVID is also represented is really interesting because it's very matter of fact. And apart from actually a film we have in the program called Follow the Protocol, which deals directly with it, it's very just business as usual. I think another interesting trend, which I've spoken a little bit about before, is this really interesting kind of, genre of trans filmmaking, which I think is really exciting, where there's this, a conversation going with history in the past and trans filmmakers looking at historical figures and historical moments and reinterpreting them in their own way and kind of creating these really interesting kind of metafictions that are part documentary, part drama, and completely something wholly new. But I find it really interesting that these stories are being told because, as we saw in the installation, there's stories that haven't really existed freely. We haven't seen a lot of them, and it's kind of created some really exciting work. And, one of the films we've got in the program, Framing Agnes, is one that speaks very much to that sensibility, and it's by some filmmakers that have made a movie called No Ordinary Man, which we actually screened back in April, I think it was, for our mini festival. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, we've talked a whole lot about the festival itself. We need to get to the headliners. Talk us through some of these headlines. Your face, did you see his face light up as soon as we got to that?
Excited.
Talk me through some of the headliners.
Headliners, yeah, this is what I do when I bore people when I catch them in the foyer talking about these movies. Okay, I'm going to pick out a few and just kind of briefly touch on them. One movie that I really adored is a Finnish film called Girl Picture. The film is set over 3 consecutive Fridays, and Friday night's a night where anything can happen, which is why I usually stay home. But anyway, it's a really kind of lovely movie, kind of a coming of age film about female camaraderie. And these young teenagers on the cusp of womanhood, just trying to make sense of their life, grappling with love, first-time love, sexuality, sex. But I think what's really great about it is, these women kind of embrace these kind of messy spaces of desire and sex and wholly own it. And I think with refreshing agency, which is refreshing and no one gets punished for it, and it's really wonderful. So I think Girl Picture is really awesome, and I hope people kind of get to check that one out. Another film I quite liked is another big headliner movie called In From the Side. And I'll just say gay rugby, that's the pitch. But I'll say a little bit more about it as well if you want. It's a romantic drama from the UK about these two men on the same team who are in long-term relationships who start a clandestine affair. And it's sort of about how that affair sort of threatens to kind of rock this already destabilised rugby team. And so it kind of becomes about, I guess that kind of destabilising force kind of coming in and kind of potentially kind of really tearing apart this team that is already struggling. So very messy drama. I'm here for it. Really interesting. And interesting enough, the director, Matt Carter, has been involved in inclusive rugby for over 8 years, actually. And so he's been a player, he's been a coach and a referee, and it really shows because he brings a certain amount of realism to all those hot gay sex scenes in it. So...
Now, there are a number of spotlights that are part of the festival. Are there any particular ones that you're really, really excited about?
Yes, so I love the spotlight sections, and I'm going to say, we mentioned the Brazilian one just before, which I'm really thrilled about. I think over the last 7+ years as a film programmer, I've seen such an amazing body of work come out of Brazil, particularly from a country that's had such an epidemic of, violence against queer people and particularly trans people. And I think it's been interesting to see that cultural community and queer community respond to that. And I think create a really exciting body of work. Obviously, our opening night films from Brazil, our closing night film. And there's a trio of films that we have in the spotlight, including a really wonderful movie called Mars One, which is about a Brazilian family just kind of set on the cusp of when Bolsonaro came into power, boo. And it's a really lovely movie about a young woman kind of falling in love for the first time. An excellent movie called Follow the Protocol, which I briefly touched on. And this is a movie that might be very relatable to anyone that tried hooking up during COVID lockdowns. And this is very much kind of set about in that kind of period of time, but very much kind of touching on that insecurity and paranoia and fear that kind of time created for people. And it's sort of a really interesting film that kind of plays on that.
Now, there's 11 different documentaries that are part of the festival this year.
Yes.
What stands out for you?
Oh, God, so many Actually, we can mention some more strands later on if you want, but
Sure, go on. Give me some of the strands.
Give me some of the more strands, please. Yeah. Okay. Actually, one more I will mention actually is our Freak Out program, and the only reason why I want to talk about it is because I had one job as a program director, as far as I was concerned, and that was to bring queer horror into the festival and genre. So I think I did it.
The appetite for it is there.
It is, exactly. Look, I think what's been really interesting about it is that, the mainstream is finally catching up with something we've all known all along. Queers love horror. And, we know a little bit something about kind of being labelled, as the other and outcasts. And so I'm not surprised it's a genre we're kind of drawn to. And we have some really great films in the program, including a film which was an Australian premiere called Hypochondriac, which is about... I can describe it as a very violent, very queer Donnie Darko. That's my pitch. Definitely worth checking out.
The whole room then?
Ooh. I know, went, wow, book it in.
Into it. Yeah.
And very quickly, I must kind of mention our retrospectives as well, which is a part of the program that I also really love. We mentioned But I'm a Cheerleader, which is, an informative film for all Natasha Lyonne stans, obviously, but a really great document of the 90s. And, of course, the one I'm really excited about is the 50th anniversary of Pink Flamingos. Yes, which is as filthy and fabulous as ever. And,
for those who are not aware, because there was only a little small smattering of applause there.
Oh, I know.
Give us a bit of background.
Well, all I can just say about it, to be honest with you, is that I hope young queers aspire to be John Waters or Divine one day. And I got to say, if you don't, I don't know what we've done wrong as a queer community. So please check it out. It's fantastic.
Now, to those docos that we were talking about before.
Talk about the docos.
They always get forgotten about. I don't want to forget them.
No,
there are some incredible ones in the festival.
And the docos are always really kind of great part of the festival, or any festival for me, to be honest with you. One film I really want to talk about is a really excellent documentary called Black As You Are, which is a very powerful documentary that examines the complexities of being black and gay during the Black Lives Matters era. And it actually kind of, for me, sort of really brought to mind another older film by a filmmaker called Marlon Riggs from the UK from the 90s called Black Is, Black Ain't, it was called, which was also an interrogation of homophobia within the black community. And I think it's a really interesting dialogue that's happening with those two films. So highly recommend that movie. And another movie that I must mention is called Blitz. If you're an 80s music kid like me, Blitz really kind of hits the sweet spot. It looks at the very short-lived queer nightclub called Blitz, where a lot of various artists sort of spun around its kind of chaotic orbit, many who went on to define what we now know as the New Romantic era. And, you know, spilling the tea in this doco, people like Boy George, members from Spandau Ballet, I mean, you know, tick, 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 I'm there. You know, it's a really fun documentary. I think people are going to really enjoy it.
What about local productions? I know there are a number of local productions that are a part of the festival this year.
Yeah, look, the Australian stuff is always really exciting. And obviously, I don't know if you saw that amazing slide of the community access slide. That was from a movie called The Alexander Ball. I was going to do a death drop when I came on, but I thought I better not.
Well, you've still got an opportunity to do that.
Have time.
Do we think you should do it? It's not going to happen. Don't get too excited.
That is part of two fantastic documentaries that we're showing. One's called Victorian Queens. I think the director's in the audience tonight, actually, and The Alexander Ball. And I think what I love about these two documentaries are that they really showcase the way that the queer community embraces diversity, and in particular goes about creating inclusive spaces within these communities as well. You know, Victorian Queens obviously hones in on the Victorian drag scene, and so there's a lot of familiar faces in there. And The Alexander Ball is about the ballroom scene and death drops apparently as well. So that's a really, really great documentary. And obviously David mentioned our fantastic Australian centrepiece film, The Longest Weekend, which is about three siblings who kind of come together under the same roof because of unforeseen life situations, dealing with a legacy of a dodgy dad. And, you know, it kind of, I think, deals really well with all those complicated relationships we have with siblings, let's just say that. How
many films have we got this year again? What's the full time?
All up, I think it was like 149 features, documentaries, shorts, all of it.
Which is an incredible number. There's got to be some in there that are true hidden gems. They're the kind of thing that, you know, they might not be a really big name, they might not be a headliner, but there's something something incredible about them that people just don't see necessarily. What's in there?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, these are the movies that I definitely feel, you know, you don't want them to get lost, you know, you don't want people to miss out on them. And one that I definitely really hope people get to see is a film called Ultraviolet and the Blood Spitters Gang, which definitely wins the best title of the festival. This is a really, really beautifully stitched together archive as memory essay film. The filmmaker basically found a series of letters from her grandmother, and they were these love letters to this woman. And so this filmmaker has stitched together this really incredible, remarkable story about forbidden love, death, and these women that were basically living outside the norms of society. I think it's a really terrific film, and, you know, I really hope people get to check that one out. So yeah, that one definitely is a great little hidden gem that I highly recommend. Another movie called The Blue Caftan, I really hope people get to check out. This is a drama about a couple who run a successful caftan store in Morocco, and they end up hiring a young male apprentice to help with increasing demand. What develops, of course, is unspoken desires that become very spoken between the husband and the young man. And it actually kind of becomes a really interesting and complex look at this marriage between this man and this woman, aside from it being a love story as well. And great performances from the three actors. I think it's a really wonderful film.
Well, to bring this home, I know we've got 149 films. Very difficult to pick your favourites. It's like asking you to pick your favourite child, but
Yeah.
pick your favourite.
Wow, yeah, that's always tough. I mean, I'll start by saying they're all good, and they're all my favourites, but because you've asked, I will pick a couple. I'm actually going to start with a short film, because I feel like sometimes shorts kind of get lost in this a little bit, and so I'm just going to pull out a short movie called Troy. And Troy is part of our comedy shorts package, which is now being rebranded Laugh Out Proud. See what we did there?
Oh, I get it.
Get it? You get it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I get it.
And Troy is about this straight couple, basically, that are living next door to this gay man who has a very loud and active sex life and love life. And it's kind of about the way that kind of begins to affect their own relationship. It's a really, really great movie. I liked it a lot. The other movie that I really adored is called Wandering Heart. And this film's from Argentina. It's about a gay man whose life sort of begins to sort of unravel slightly after the breakup of a long-term relationship. And he kind of finds himself one summer kind of spiraling into this kind of overindulgence of, drugs, anonymous sex, very well-catered orgies, I have to say. And the only thing that's kind of sort of anchoring him is the relationship with his teenage daughter, which is this small sense of stability that he has. And I think what I really loved about this movie is that it kind of brought to mind the work of this really amazing independent American filmmaker called John Cassavetes, in particular a film called Woman Under the Influence. And it has that same kind of energy and edge to it. So couldn't recommend this film any higher. I think it's really great.
Well, thank you for all of your insight and knowledge. We're going to wrap this up here because I have a feeling that you'll want to... Do you want to party? You want to... Get that vibe from the room. Before we do go, though, look, in the spirit of... What's the hashtag? MQFF32? Is that what we're rolling with? In the spirit of that, would it be okay? I know this is a little bit awkward because, we're not normally like this, but could we get a selfie? Is that okay?
Yes.
Can we get a selfie?
We can.
Can I see if I just stand up, right? And you'll have to put on your best smiling faces. Oh my God, the lighting. It's beautiful. Okay, so if you're gonna stand here, I'm gonna stand here. Now I need you all to look like you need to say cheese. Okay, I'm gonna turn the camera around so that's. All right, and smile, say cheese. Beautiful. That's gonna go online. Thank you very much. Hashtag MQFF.
You all look great.
You look fabulous.
We're gonna work that body.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for coming. We'll see you out there.